Be Mine, Chapter 2. This night was an unusually cold night in Russia as Andrei and Peter moved along in the horse-drawn carriage. He recalled the stirring memory of Ksenia. So by the time they reached Peter's home, Andrei was shivering as severely as if he had trudged through the snow. They retired quickly, but just the thought of seeing her again at sunrise absolutely drove away the possibility of sleep. He got up from the bed and started to pace the floor, but it did not calm him down. Then he retrieved something from his luggage, a most precious possession. It was the icon of Holy Mary, which had belonged to his deceased mother. He picked it up and started to pray. Prayer had become the center of his life. Usually when he poured out his soul before the Holy Mother of God, a tiny fire was kindled, which would burn higher and stronger the longer he knelt in prayer. But tonight, no calming strength, no peace came to help from the Virgin Mary. So he continued to shiver and returned to his blankets to seek warmth, to endure until dawn. Andrei's heart was focused on Ksenia and his desire to see her and to feel her near him once more. He pictured the minute details of her face again before closing his eyes to find his rest. He faintly sensed a tender beam of sunlight jumping on his face, tickling him and warming his cheeks. Suddenly he became fully awake and shouted, "Oh, Lord, I've overslept." Andrei scolded himself loudly as he rapidly pulled on his pants and shirt and began frantically to run to the lake. He was nearly blind to all the surroundings as he dashed from Peter's castle. One small fact eased his pain. Last night he mentioned to Peter about their plan to meet at the lake at sunrise, and his friend had shown him a shortcut path. Maybe this route could bring him to the lake quickly enough to join Ksenia. The wind carried him along so forcefully that his feet barely touched the ground. "Oh, Lord, Lord, forgive me for everything. Please make a miracle this instant and let me see her, Ksenia, the one whom I long to embrace and hold throughout eternity. I want to breathe in the essence of her body, endearing her to me as a little child, so tenderly and gently. But what is happening to me? Forgive me, please, Lord. I don't understand what's going on inside me. Am I going to hell for this passion which fills my being?" Andrei continued to pray as he ran. But it was too late to hear the Lord's reply, because the answer to his desperate plea stood there before him in full view, the lovely Ksenia. She was totally illuminated by the rays of the rising sun, and it took his breath away. The moment he saw her, his former questions and confusion evaporated. He no longer desired to hear from God. His only desire was to give his soul and life to Ksenia. He lost himself and all his inhibitions. At this moment, she also saw him running towards her, and she began advancing to meet him. "Oh, thank you, God, thank you, she's here," Andrei exclaimed to himself. When he stopped before her, he gasped for air and begged her forgiveness for arriving so late. "Shush, shush, Mr. Brovlansky. I just arrived here myself 1 minute before you," she replied. "Precious, beautiful Ksenia, if it is possible, please call me by my name, Andrei. I feel so distant from you when you call me by my formal greeting of Mr. Broslovsky. And if you feel such familiarity is disrespectful, then please forgive me, because I feel like we've known each other throughout eternity. It seems I have always known you in my heart, but that we were not given the chance to see each other until last night," whispered Andrei as he took her hands in his. A warmth like he had never felt before filled his body and immediately overwhelmed him with a desire to wrap her powerfully in his arms and to embrace every cell of her body and to stay with her as long as possible. Without regard to the consequences of what he was doing, he embraced her tightly and began to whisper in her ear, "Kishininka, sweetheart, darling, my love, I have been waiting for you all my life. I'm so sorry that we were not able to meet each other years ago." Suddenly she started to tremble as a petal on a most delicate flower, and he felt the same small tremor beginning in his body, just as it had been last night in the winter garden. Andre Shinka, how grateful I am that the good fortune of destiny has brought us together, and you have come at last to our city. The Lord himself gave us this opportunity to meet each other, she whispered into his ear. This reminder of God sobered him completely from the uncontrollable feelings which had overtaken him. Tenderly and carefully he released himself from her, and against the will of his flesh he forced himself to say, "Dear Ksenia, please forgive me for allowing myself to behave in such an improper way towards you. If you will allow me, I would like to take you home now." Yes, of course, Mr. Broslovsky," said Ksenia with hesitation. All the way home to her castle they were quiet. Actually, what could they say to each other? They had already transgressed the laws of their different societies. Andre, as a young priest aged 30, had been thoroughly committed only to God and had never desired to be married, though the Orthodox Church would allow it. And Ksenia, being 18 and most beautiful, was constantly surrounded by eligible, mature men who were firmly established in society and vied for her attention. Her parents would soon be making their decision about who was most noble, most wealthy, and therefore most worthy of her hand. The Belozersky family was one of the noblest among Ukrainian aristocracy, and their roots were firmly established. Ksenia was their only daughter. So Andrei trudged along stiffly, pondering his dilemma, and continued deep in thought until they reached her castle. He clicked his heels, bowed fully, and quietly dismissed himself from her presence. Turning slowly with stooped shoulders, he retraced his steps towards the Vorontsov castle and his friend